You don't want to do that to me.
Right, we're recording.
Josh, you're super excited today. You're like running around all over the place. Like I feel like that's usually me. It's all excited and chipper and moving their hands about and being animated in motion. What's going on?
Well, at some point in the past, you called me handsy, which I don't think I
You
appreciate.
are a bit handsy today. Usually I'm the handsy one, but that's okay. You can take that role on board.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, I'm excited because someone that's actually been in here regularly is coming back to the studio to do something a little different.
Oh.
It's Nadia Dinneen, who's the co-founder and co-host of FYI, All Things Mental Wellness, which is a local mental health podcast that's reaching beyond the area, and I'm the guy that pushes buttons.
Well, FYI, I'm keen. I'm keen to have her in for your information at home. If you don't know what that acronym is, just a bit of learning with Mel right here. You can sit down, open your ear holes, and listen to Nadia and her story.
Yeah. Sorry, that hurt my shoulder. Open your ear holes.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know. I just found
Have you never heard me say
No, I
that?
have, but I just found it funny that time. Nadia Dinneen, co-host and creator of FYI, All Things Mental Wellness. One of the most, if not the most important pieces of audio probably ever made in our little region here. Welcome.
Yes.
But also, did you see how she instantly flipped into interviewing you?
Yeah, allowed it to
really?
happen. Yeah, you did.
I mean-
Oh,
Yeah,
there you
did.
go. Oh, no, I'm just I love conversation.
Same.
100% comfortable as the interviewer, but that's not what you're here for.
Yeah, I
We're
know.
digging into you today.
Yeah, and that I'm not so comfortable with, but I am a conversationalist and I love hearing people's stories and obviously sport interests me a lot, so that's why I...
So let's talk a little bit about that. So how ingrained in the Albury-Wodonga sport culture are you?
Well, prior to that, Mel, so I come from Myrtleford, little country town down the
Soccer.
road. Soccer, yeah. I grew up playing soccer and basketball predominantly, dabbled in squash and netball, wasn't any good at any of them, but soccer was my thing, yeah. And I played that from a very young age and right up until I had Mitch, basically. So it was very community back then, and it probably still is. Sport is very community focused, and that was everything to me on the weekends in winter was soccer. You know, you'd turn up, you'd play your game, and then you'd hang around all day, and you'd watch the boys, and then you'd watch the men, and it was awesome. It was the way of life. And you know, basketball. I played basketball for many years as well. So. That again wasn't as much as a community sort of feel.
I was going to ask you about that because I grew up in Corryong.
Yeah.
And we have no soccer culture there because there is no league. And it wasn't until I moved down here and I saw how big the local soccer league is and it gets on the news all the time.
Yeah.
Is there a difference to you, because you've been involved in so many different sports, Nards, is there a difference in culture between, say, a soccer team in a country town and you just mentioned basketball, but even like a football team?
I'm glad you've asked me that because making the transition from Myrtleford to Wodonga, as close as it is, it's something that people from here don't understand. So, you know, I like a bit of controversy, so I'm just going to say it as it is. You know, people will go, oh, Myrtleford Soccer Club, they won 3 premierships, league titles, they're paying players. You know, number one, you can't pay players. It's an amateur competition. But I just say to them, you don't know what a small town community is like. You know, we'll keep using Myrtleford as an example. You know, they got a couple of kids quite a few years ago, done some travelling. They happened to be soccer players. There was a bit of a connection there. They landed at Myrtleford. They were dead set guns.
Yeah.
Myrtleford embraced them, like you say, Josh, that small community. Everyone jumps on board. Everyone wants to know them and meet them and invite them around for a bowl of pasta and buy them a beer at the Savoy Club. And these guys think that they've hit gold.
Yeah.
they're like, oh, my God, how is this? We're like little celebrities here. And everyone, and I mean everyone, gets around them, and someone on the committee will have a spare room so they can, shack up in the spare room. They hit them up with a job. They go out and earn their own money, and they love that community.
Yeah.
They feel that community. And I know we get that here. Like Albury-Wodonga isn't a city as such, but it's different. It's really different. You are part of that group. Your mum's there, your dad's there, your brothers are there, your uncles and aunts have played for the club. It really is. I can't explain it. We're involved locally with a football and a cricket club, and it's fantastic, and it's very family orientated, and it's very inclusive, and it's amazing. But I don't know, those small towns have just got something different.
Do you think it comes down to options a little bit as well? So for smaller communities, sport is their option of social activity pretty much. So everyone just jumps on board and gets involved.
Yep.
And when you started talking about Myrtleford Soccer Club, I do remember seeing pictures and just wanting to be part of it from afar without even liking soccer necessarily.
Yep.
Because they had they had 44-gallon drums with fires in them, and breakfast was put on and all this other stuff, which reminds me of other little clubs that I've worked in as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Josh is there looking at just bonfires and barbecue, like breakfast, and that sort of stuff happens.
It's culture, Josh.
The parents get up and they're there early, and instead of just standing around or sitting in cars, they'll be maybe
or dropping and running.
Cooking, and like everyone just chips in.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And even Dave, my husband, he's played in a lot of a couple of different football clubs, and not just in the Ovens and Murray, but he's played in the Tallangatta League and the Ovens and King League, and same thing. As soon as you step out to those little communities, you just feel that there's more sense of belonging. There's that togetherness. And you're right, Mel, someone's dad's there, marking the ground out, putting the soccer nets up and, and also trying to coach the team that's just about to – it's unreal. It really is. It's incredible.
I'm just going to put like a reference, because I worked at Albury Tigers for a while when they were in like peak glory days, and Nadia's giving me the thumbs
down. Thumbs down.
But when I was part of it, it was an amazing experience to be part of that. But it did become like, this is so much of a job. Like, there was so much expectation and responsibility around it as a business format, I suppose. When I stepped away from that and went down to Kiwa, you're right, I felt like royalty. They're like, oh, Mel's come out to be our trainer. And I got like toured around like I was the best thing ever. And it was just like this really nice feeling to feel like you're appreciated and it's not an expectation, and that it's not about money or anything at all. It's about everyone sort of wrapping you up and giving you a big hug.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, Mel, to the defence of that too, is Ovens and Murray is big business as well. So to defend that as well, and it's by no means undermining the Tallangatta League. I mean, I love Kiwa.
Yeah.
But I guess that professionalism, it does. It steps up as the leagues go higher. So there's a bit of a defence there. But you're right. That's the sort of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah. I guess it's more about the brand of Albury Tigers, so to speak, at that level, as opposed to the community aspect of it, I would assume.
Correct. And I mean, if you want to talk success, Kiwa's been highly successful in the Tallangatta League, as Albury has in the Ovens and Murray.
Is this the Josh Bartell Kiwa?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so big Josh.
Former guest. Yeah.
So
and former Wodonga Bulldogs too there.
Yeah.
Got to get doggies in there somewhere.
There you go.
Nice plug.
Yeah.
Speaking of plugs, I just want to talk about just the podcast quickly, and then maybe we can come back again to
I like
talking
sport.
about the area. Yeah, we could go on all day about the sport, so I want to get that in there. For people that haven't heard the show, what is it and why did you make it? And I don't know whether you've actually answered, and just so everyone knows, I actually get to be involved because I produce the show behind the scenes. It's It's called FYI, All Things Mental Wellness. And I don't think I've actually really heard you break down, Nads. When did you become a fan of the medium, and how did you make that connection to this is how I want, my advocacy to manifest? Sure.
Oh, it's a long question. Like, I could sit here all day answering that. But I guess in a nutshell, the passion stemmed from my own personal struggles. I'd be still battling my demons, back 15, 16 years ago, and I'd find something that would work, and I'd say to Dave, oh, that's it, when I get better and, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to help people. And he'd be like, yeah, well done, but, we need to get you sorted now. So I sort of knew I had that passion, and it come from a place of I hated what I went through, so I didn't want anyone else to go as low as I did. And that was the start of the real passion. And, as time went on and I got better, I tried a few different things. I started studying. I thought, no, I'm going to become a counsellor, and that's what I'm going to do it professionally. And I did. I enrolled and I started studying, and I hated it. And what I didn't like about it is I didn't agree with the principles of counselling, which is very... Oh, Mel, tell me how you feel about that. That real melancholy, let me tap you on the back. And, it's not my way. I'm not saying my way is the best way by any means, but it just went against my grain. So I shut the books. I thought, nah, I'm sticking to the career that I've got. I can still help people. It doesn't need to be on a professional level. And I've caught up with more than several people to help one-on-one with my own struggles, and theirs were very similar, and become then lifelines for them on the phone and so forth. So I was content because I was helping people. Then a couple of years later, I thought I'll pick up the books. I've paid for my course, and I hit that same snag again. And fast forward, I came up with a women's wellness group. So I thought, I'll stick to women because I know women a bit better than what I know men, and we do share a lot of things in common, and especially around the age of 40.
So not just anatomy, I'm sure there's other things.
No. Yeah. No, not just anatomy. So I started putting together with my best mate, and we come up with this group. And we had organised some amazing guest speakers. We had Elfine Varghese, we had Annette Baker. We just had some really good resources and speakers coming in week after week. It was going to be an 8-week women's wellness group. And we got through week 1 and COVID hit. And I thought, oh, what a bummer, we'll wait, All the guest speakers were fantastic. All the people that enrolled were brilliant. We'll wait, And what seemed like every week, Mitch was coming home going, oh, Mum, such and such has committed suicide. Yeah. And, oh, Mum, or you talk to someone and someone else was having a major health battle, and I just thought, nah, this is crap. What can I do? I've got these great speakers at my disposal. I believe in it. I'm passionate. And I don't know, I'd started probably about 18 months prior to that. I started heavily getting into podcasts and listening to podcasts. Every spare minute I had on my own, I'd put me earphones in and I'd listen to a podcast, and I loved them. And then, I suppose the rest is history. I reached out to the lovely Josh, and I was going to go solo and record and try and do it all very amateur type, but I thought, well, why not? And I reached out to Josh, and here we are. So that's the story. I mean,
there's two things, Nads.
Yep.
Our show, Punching Sideways, is a show that from the get-go has been locally focused. Your show, when we first talked about the idea and it all started to come together, my involvement, you had a co-host, Bernie, etc. Everything was starting to happen.
Yep.
Obviously, it can help anybody. Unlike a women's group, as great as an idea as that was, that could only ever really help the people that happened to be there unless you were going to live stream it to the world or go that extra mile.
100%.
You've now created something that anyone can tap into if they have access to technology.
Correct.
But it has been really heavily embraced locally.
It has.
So I want to know, because this is a platform to talk about that, how do you feel about the fact it's been embraced so much locally, and did you expect it to maybe have more momentum outside the area and less locally?
Well,
if you like us, like I like us, get onto punchingsideways.com, give us a bit of a likesy, have a bit of an exploration around, and maybe buy us a coffee.
Did you expect it to maybe have more momentum outside the area and less locally?
Well, I still remember when I proposed to Bernie to come on and be a co-host.
Maybe you added to be a co-host there.
To be a co-host.
Because Dave might be upset.
Yeah. Be a partner. No, I still remember, and when he, I said, don't answer me now, think about it, don't want you to be on this, be put on the spot or whatever, but I just said all as I want out of it is I guess because there was a lot of suicide happening, that's where my focus was. And as much as I knew bugger all about suicide, mine was more in the fears, the phobias, the anxiety, that sort of thing. That started becoming my focus. And I just said to Bernie, if one person, listens to Annette Baker and we can stop someone from doing something that is just catastrophic, job done. Or, if one person goes out and gets help, job done. I had no, honest to God, I thought it'd be my family and my friends listening to the podcasts.
I'll flip that again and say that you're giving the people that you're interviewing as well an opportunity to get stuff off their chest. And
Absolutely.
A form of recovery as well. So don't just negate it to one thing, because people don't often feel that they can share about themselves. So obviously you've created a very safe space.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that,
you're
because
right.
I know that you and I have spoken about this, Naz. You really weren't expecting for some of the more, I guess for the lack of a better term, the more unknown guests to have the impact on people that they've had. And it's for the reason that Mel just said, that there's been some moments with local people that you would never expect to share some of the things that they've shared, that it feels like just being around what's happening, that it's really impacted
Josh.
people.
And Mel, just to go back to you are so right. There's been, I'm not going to name them, but you see some guests and 2 or 3 minutes into the recording, you just see their shoulders just go down 2 inches, and it is like they're sitting in front of a therapist almost.
Yeah.
So 100%, it's helping them as well, and it helps us. Like, we walk out of here and we feel like we've had therapy.
Well, you have to feel good about what you're doing, right?
You do. You walk out and you go, how friggin' awesome was Alfine? She's got me up and about, or and in a lot of circumstances, you can walk out going, far out, my life's pretty good.
Yeah, that was my other question. I was going to, is it as well, like, get some perspective on stuff.
Bloody oath. Yeah. I walked out of here after interviewing a lady very similar age to me who was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at 42, and I thought, Nards, pull your bloody head in. Mm-hmm. Stop whinging about small and insignificant crap, because you were here, Josh.
I know that lady. And I don't know whether we could or should name her, but she's one of the most amazing people
I think
that
she'd
I've
be
ever met.
okay with that.
Yeah. She'd be fine.
Diane Ross, that's who we're talking about.
Yeah, she's a bloody legend.
Goes to the gym with me, just is way, way better at the gym than me. And that's the sort of attitude where you're just like, quit your excuses. I've got people that say, I can't exercise, my knee's too sore, or, I've got this old injury. Fucking
man up.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's not saying that everyone's story is relative to themselves as well, so don't. But there are a lot of things that you've obviously had the privilege to hear, and it does does put a lot of perspective
It does.
into things.
It pulls your head in, Mel. Like, even if you don't look at a fitness side of it, and we can take Di's resilience and drive into just normal everyday life. It might be a career side of it, and you go, well, she just grabs life by the balls and look at the cards she's been dealt.
Yeah.
Man up. You might be a bit whatever it might be. You might be financially, not quite there, or, you might have other obstacles. Like, have a look at her bloody obstacles.
Yeah.
Yet she doesn't really see them as an obstacle. That's the bizarre thing.
Well, that's the nature, and I'm fascinated by the psychology of things as well.
Same.
And everything is relative to that individual, right? Because I could fall over and break my wrist and just be like, ugh, that's annoying. I can't do this, but I can do all this other stuff as well. But to some people that haven't had the same lead up to me, that could be the end of their world. And I think it's important as well to go, suck it up, gain perspective, but also have that awareness that according to what life has been dealt to you in the past, you may not be equipped for what would seem like a minor thing compared to others.
Yeah,
Sometimes
too right.
That would be just my little.
No,
take
that's
on things.
that's exactly right, Mel. That we're all conditioned differently. We've all had a very different past, and past could have been, like you said, the week leading up. You've hit a brick wall after brick wall after brick wall, and then it might just be something. Not that breaking your wrist is small, but maybe to Josh might be, oh well, it's just a little bump, but to you,
can't press my buttons properly. If he broke his finger, his button pressing finger on the audio.
Oh, yeah. I'd be very upset.
Then we'd all be in other world.
Well, you got another
pain.
hand.
I do. I've got and some other fingers.
Yeah.
One thing that it's funny that even came up really because it's a really important thing that I've learned particularly from Bernie because he re-emphasises it often. The same triggers don't have to cause the same result in people, and vice versa. You can get to a very dark place with a much smaller trigger than maybe someone else that is naturally more resilient.
Correct.
But so you've got to treat both sides, which is something I've learned directly from him, that you can't criticise people for, oh, well, that person's had it incredibly hard. It's understandable they're like that. Like placing judgment on someone that, oh, well, you haven't had quite as bad an experience, but you've ended up there too, then that's not legitimate.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I learn a lot. I just sit there and absorb all this stuff, and I thought that I had somewhat of a handle on not from a medical perspective, but from the psychological perspective, from reading a lot about it, but hearing people talk in the room.
Yeah.
And you guess yourself
Different
and Bernie,
slant.
a different slant and a different base of knowledge, and they kind of all cross over.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess, like I said before, my thing is more anxiety, fears, phobias, insecurities and things like that. And I'm very passionate about that, but I'm enjoying the other side of it as well. Like I'm learning so much about bipolar and bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 and personality disorders and suicide But you know what? One of my pet hates, and I think Bernie and I nearly come to fisticuffs about this. We've nearly come to fisticuffs about a few things because I'm very black and white. I am very black and white. I do see shades of grey. I don't know whether it's that or whether it's
not 50 Shades. Just
no, not 50 Shades.
Certainly not that.
Certainly not that. And it might be my WOG heritage as well.
Yeah,
Mel, I don't know, but I shouldn't say I hate, when people, and God love them because the support has been unreal and from all walks of life, it isn't just the young under 20-year-olds, it's the 30s or 40s. I had this absolutely amazing woman walk into my place of work after my episode and bought me this big box of chocolates and said, I just, love what you're doing. So it's been broad and I've been so chuffed But when people go, I love that you're bringing awareness to mental health.
Yeah.
And I just feel like saying, thank you, of course. If we're at raising awareness status, we've failed. We've got to be beyond raising awareness of mental health. my mantra, my goal, like what I want the end result of this podcast to be whenever the end is we're normalising it. I want you to, it's okay to tell a colleague that you've been struggling for a week, a month, a year, or, I want us to talk about it. I want it to be normal. We're not going to hesitate going, oh, Mel, I hurt my knee and, I'm having a bit of physio on it, so I'm not playing we don't stop to not talk about that. Or I've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
I will flip that again and totally agree with you that people need to be more aware. But again, it's relative to what's happened to them. So for some people, it is just a whoa, what's all this stuff? Because I've got a guy that I worked with when I was in Shepparton, and we were trying to create an anti-bullying campaign, and he couldn't understand it. Like, he'd never either been aware or seen or experienced bullying. And I'm sure he would have seen it, but maybe his awareness around it, because of the people that were around him, was completely clouded and just he didn't know. So to try and explain to him what can happen, and then we tried to flip him to be, we will use you and other people to share their stories so that you have an understanding, because he came from Northern Beaches, was just unaffected by anything.
Yeah, you're right.
So, and I'm not saying that you're right or wrong. I'm just saying some people are, and it all comes down to personalities and stuff as well. They're very equipped to live in their own little bubble and maybe don't see outside of that.
Yeah. No, you're right, and that's right. It's not about being right or wrong, I guess.
I can understand the passion and the annoyance.
Yeah,
I can see that. I just wanted to.
Yeah. No, and that's very quickly what Bernie threw back in my face, and absolutely is correct. But I don't know, again, I don't know a lot about a topic, some form of medical, say, diabetes.
Yeah.
But I know enough.
Yeah.
I try to make it my job that you know enough, so the awareness is there. I think it's up to all of us. 1 in 5 guys suffer with a mental health problem.
Yeah.
We need to make it our job. I'm not saying, you need to go out there and read and listen to everything you can about mental health or mental ill health, but I think as individuals and for our communities, we need.
So what word would you prefer to be thrown at you?
Thanks for normalising mental ill health.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be taboo and stigma. I don't even know why we're still using that yuck word, that stigma attached to it. Mm-hmm. Just want it to be norm. I want it just to be normal. Okay, people will still be uncomfortable, as we would if we're talking about some other ailment or disease or condition that we're going through. We don't love to sit there and talk about, we're going through menopause and or we've got this but I want it to be somewhat normal. So in an ideal world, like everyone to come and say, well done, high five on normalising the discussions around mental
So why do you, and I have my own theories as to why maybe people haven't absorbed the amount of perspective that you would expect them to have by now. And I guess I could go into that, but why do you think that it's only at the point of awareness, or is it just a nomenclature thing? Are they actually really saying to you, thank you for normalising this, but they're using the wrong language?
Different word, yeah. There's a lot like that.
Because we've been drilled with awareness about all kinds of causes for the last 25 years. It's just the word that gets used.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Josh. A lot of those people I know are quite aware and they're past aware. So it may just be, in fact, the word they've chosen to use and not the word they mean, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And then there are the ones that I guess are aware but know that so many others aren't aware, so they're just grateful that you're bringing awareness for the ones that aren't aware, if that makes sense.
So my theory, and this is just speculation, is that the field has never come together enough in terms of the research and the day-to-day practice of helping people through this stuff, regardless what group, for the community to ever feel like I'm going to let those messages into my world because I know that there's a solution or there's some hope.
Yeah.
Until it's conclusive and there's a solution and we all agree on that, I don't want that in my world at all.
Correct. And that's
and as
exactly
I mentioned,
what
speculation,
Mel said.
That's just me riffing with you now.
Yeah.
And Mel, but
No. And Mel is right. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. You know, and as a whole, there needs to be more media. There needs to be more advertising about it. You're 100% correct. There is still this disconnect within it, and it is broad. It's like saying cancer. Well, goodness gracious, that's such a broad spectrum. You know, there is a lot of forms of it. And same as mental ill health or mental health, however you want to refer to it as. It's big and it's broad, and a lot of the times it's not visual.
You guys have created a potentially very personal way for people to absorb a lot of information and perspective without the world 100% knowing about it. Like we've talked about before, Nards, how uncomfortable it might be. There's a really well-known author, Gabor Mate, and he's got 3 books that are huge in the world of, basically in the world of trauma.
Yep.
But if you're walking around reading a book, people are going to know, okay, that person's either studying trauma or they're suffering trauma, or there's no way to really get a handle on it without people knowing. If you go on YouTube, you're going to get slammed with 300 videos about trauma.
Yeah.
Because Google knows exactly what you were doing on there at any one time.
That's right.
And it's hard to play a YouTube video. Like you can't just play it on the TV. Not if you're trying to get a handle on it before the world knows.
Yep.
Not that that's the right way to do it or not. I'm more so.
No, but you're right.
Maybe what I'm saying is you picked a medium where people can
personalise.
They can get a really big handle on this thing from listening to a show like yours, or the show that you mention a lot, The Imperfects, I think it's called, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, Hugh Van Kalberg, The Imperfects. That was a big thing, because I do know a lot of people, you know, I've had people reach out since the podcast, and this makes me happy, but it makes me sad. And I haven't known some of these people. They've reached out on through a private connection, but their struggles were very similar to my own, and they were after a bit of advice, and they were hiding. They were hiding the fact that, you know, or people that I know of or acquaintances have very similar, yet they were reaching out. And of course, I would always be private, whether someone asked or not. It's a private subject. But and a couple of them have said, I love it. Not even my husband has to know what I'm listening to, because I put my earphones on, or I use it when I'm driving to and from work or whatever. And that was a big thing, huge. And like you said, the women's group was great. We had organised. We were down to 20 people because we were affected by COVID. We could only take 20. So effectively 20 people would have benefited. Yeah, they could have helped others and passed on information. But, I mean, the podcast is just... Obviously, the spectrum, you know, we've been contacted by someone from India, and like it's blown my mind. It really, really has. It's which only amplifies how big of a problem we have.
And there is a need for it.
There is a need for it. Yeah, too right.
Was the end of part 1 with Nadia Dinneen. Stay tuned, guys. Get on to Punching Sideways. Have a bit of a look around and maybe buy us a coffee. And then you can hear part 2 next week.
This episode was edited by Dead Set Podcasting. If you want your podcast to sound this good, check out deadsetpodcasting.com/services. Get the sound you're chasing.